Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the families of the victims of these senseless crimes. The loss of their loved ones in such a tragic manner is heartbreaking, and their memories will forever be honored and cherished.
The pain of being betrayed by the ones we love and trust the most is unlike any other. Each story we have in store for you today involves a shocking breach of trust that leads to tragic outcomes, revealing the dark side of human relationships. How does one process the betrayal of someone who was supposed to be a friend? How would you feel if the very people you had helped turned against you? And how does it feel to have the one person you should trust the most cause you harm? These are stories from across the world where the biggest mistake the victims made was to trust. First, beneath its hollowed halls, a demonic plot was brewing in Shanghai, China, a tale of ambition turned deadly that would spark widespread debates about student life, competition, and mental health. Second, at Cornwall, UK, is the tragic tale of Wheelmaid, the murder where the victim, David Alderson, was headed to the Wheelmaid copper mine, a place rich with history and scenic views. Little did he know this visit would end in a tragedy like no other. And for the last one, let's head to New York, where what was supposed to be a visit filled with care and support ended in a brutal act of violence that changed everyone's lives for the worst. Join us as we unravel each of these cases and dive into the twisted minds of these killers to uncover what truly drives them to commit such acts. First, in the bustling city of Shanghai, where skyscrapers pierce the skyline and neon lights paint the night, a dark shadow loomed over one of China's most prestigious universities. Huang Yang was the kind of student many aspired to be. Born in a small town in the southwestern province of Sichuan, he grew up in a modest family that valued education above all else. His parents, both teachers, instilled in him a strong work ethic and a thirst for knowledge from a young age. Huang excelled academically throughout his school years, consistently ranking at the top of his class. However, on April 1, 2013, Fudan University, renowned for its academic excellence and a breeding ground for future leaders, became the unlikely setting for a shocking crime that would captivate the nation. How could a place dedicated to nurturing the best and brightest become the backdrop for such a tragedy? What drove one student to betray another in such a chilling way? The tragedy unfolded in a way that seemed ripped from the pages of a mystery novel, a tale of friendship turned into rivalry and ambitions that spiraled out of control. This is the story of how a bright student with a promising future was trapped in a web of deceit and ultimately fell victim to a deadly act of betrayal. Let's find out what happened. Let's go back to Huang Yang. He was a student whose dedication and perseverance paid off when he earned admission to Fudan University's prestigious medical school, a dream he had nurtured since childhood. At Fudan, Huang was known for his academic performance and his warm and approachable personality. He was well liked by his peers and professors alike, and admired for his ability to excel academically while maintaining genuine kindness and humility. Huang had a passion for medicine, viewing it as a noble pursuit that allowed him to make a real difference in people's lives. He often expressed his desire to become a doctor who not only treated illnesses, but also cared for patients' emotional and psychological well-being. Huang's days were filled with lectures, study sessions, and volunteering at local hospitals, where he eagerly learned from every patient and doctor he encountered. He was particularly interested in hepatology and aspired to specialize in liver diseases, driven by a desire to tackle some of the most challenging medical conditions. Despite the intense academic pressure, he managed to balance his studies with a vibrant social life. Meet Lin Senhao, who lived a completely opposite life compared to Huang. In contrast, Lin Senhao, Huang's roommate, was more reserved and introspective. Lin came from a middle-class family in the city of Ningbo, where his parents worked as civil servants. Though intelligent and hard-working, Lin lacked the social ease and charisma that Huang had. He often found it difficult to connect with peers on the same level, feeling overshadowed by those who were more outgoing and socially adept. As Huang's star continued to rise, Lin's feelings of inadequacy deepened, fueling a quiet storm of resentment and envy. What happens when admiration turns into obsession? How far would Lin go to escape Huang's shadow and claim the spotlight for himself? Beneath his calm exterior, Lin's internal struggle hinted at a darkness that would soon come to light. As time passed, the differences between Huang and Lin became more pronounced. Huang's natural charisma and leadership qualities made him a standout among their peers, often being singled out by professors for his insightful contributions in class. He was invited to participate in prestigious research projects and was on a fast track to securing a coveted internship at one of Shanghai's top hospitals. Huang's ability to balance academic excellence with social ease made him a role model for many, further enhancing his reputation at Fudan University. In contrast, Lin found himself increasingly overshadowed. What began as a friendly competition between the two roommates slowly became an obsession for Lin as he struggled to keep up with Huang's achievements. Lin's envy was worsened by the relentless pressures of academia, where the drive to succeed and outshine peers was ever present. The environment became more competitive as top grades and prestigious internships became crucial for success. How does one compete against a friend who seems to excel at everything? As Lin watched Huang soar, he began to view him not as a friend, but as an obstacle in his path to success. The constant comparisons bothered and affected Lin's self-esteem, turning admiration into bitterness. He became consumed by the belief that he could only succeed by outdoing Huang, a belief that slowly distorted his perspective and priorities. Meanwhile, Huang remained unaware of Lin's growing resentment. He continued to see Lin as a friend and confidant, someone who shared the same challenges and aspirations. Huang often offered Lin support and encouragement, unaware that his kindness was actually interpreted as condescension by Lin. While Huang saw their friendship as a source of mutual support, Lin's mind was a stormy sea of jealousy and anger, growing in silence. What happens when silent jealousy festers unchecked? The breaking point came in April 2013 as the semester was ending. With exams approaching and pressure at its peak, Lin decided to take a drastic step that would change their lives forever. Lin secretly obtained a chemical called N-nitrosodimethylamine, a dangerous poison that causes liver damage and death. He carefully planned to poison the water dispenser in their dormitory, ensuring that Huang would unknowingly become the victim. On the morning of April 1, 2013, Huang Yang awoke feeling unwell. Initially, he attributed his symptoms to stress and fatigue, common among students during the intense exam period. However, as the day progressed, his condition worsened dramatically. He began experiencing severe nausea, vomiting, and excruciating abdominal pain. Concerned friends quickly took him to the hospital as his symptoms became increasingly severe. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, Huang's condition continued to deteriorate. Blood tests revealed signs of acute liver failure, a critical condition that puzzled the doctors. They suspected hepatitis or another viral infection, but were unable to identify the true cause of his rapid decline. Huang's health deteriorated further, and within days, he slipped into a coma, leaving his family and medical staff desperate for answers and treatment options. As Huang lay unconscious in the hospital, his family and friends were left in a state of shock and confusion. His parents, who had traveled from Sichuan, were devastated, unable to comprehend how their healthy, vibrant son could fall ill so suddenly. The turning point in Huang's mysterious illness came when blood tests revealed the presence of N-nitrosodimethylamine, a toxic chemical known to cause liver damage. This crucial finding indicated that Huang's condition was the result of poisoning rather than a natural illness, prompting doctors and authorities to view the case with new urgency. Upon this revelation, the Shanghai police launched a comprehensive investigation. They conducted interviews with students, faculty, and anyone who might have had contact with Huang in the days leading up to his hospitalization. The focus quickly shifted to the dormitory, where Huang and Lin lived, as investigators sought to determine how the poison had been administered. Lin's behavior during this period began to raise suspicions among investigators. While most students were cooperative and eager to help identify the perpetrator, Lin appeared anxious and evasive during questioning, often providing vague or inconsistent answers. This behavior stood in stark contrast to his usual demeanor, prompting further scrutiny from the police. Investigators began to piece together the timeline and circumstances surrounding the poisoning, analyzing security footage and checking access logs for the dormitory. Lin Senhao's downfall came with his inability to maintain his innocence. As police delved deeper into his background, they discovered inconsistencies in his statements and behavior. Lin couldn't escape for long. His internet search history revealed incriminating evidence, queries about N-nitrosodimethylamine, its effects, and methods of poisoning. Faced with mounting evidence, Lin eventually confessed to the crime. He admitted to poisoning the water dispenser with the intent to harm Huang, driven by a twisted sense of rivalry and jealousy. Lin's confession sent shockwaves through the university and the nation, serving as a stark reminder of the dark side of academic pressure and competition. Huang Yang's tragic death due to liver, kidney, and lung failure left an indelible mark on Fudan University and beyond. His family, devastated by the loss of their beloved son, sought justice and answers. The trial of Lin Senhao was widely covered by the media, sparking debates about the pressures faced by students in China's highly competitive educational system. In court, Lin expressed remorse for his actions, acknowledging the gravity of his crime. Despite his plea for leniency, the judge sentenced him to death, citing the premeditated nature of the poisoning and the betrayal of trust between friends. The Fudan University poisoning case remains a haunting reminder of the complexities of human nature and the consequences of unchecked envy. It's a story of ambition turned deadly, friendship corrupted by rivalry, and a bright future extinguished too soon. The tragedy underscored the need for greater awareness of mental health issues and the pressures faced by students in highly competitive environments. Now, picture this. A respected gun enthusiast and generous soul sets off for a mine, unaware that he is walking into a trap set by two men he thought he could trust. Let's dive into the story. It was a chilly day in 2014 in the picturesque county of Cornwall, UK. For many, it was just another day. But for David Alderson, a 72-year-old gun enthusiast, it was meant to be an exciting one. He was headed to the Wheelmaid copper mine, a place known for its rich history and scenic views. Little did he know, this visit would end in tragedy. David Alderson was a man of many passions. He loved cycling through the rolling hills of Cornwall, enjoying the wind on his face and the freedom of the open road. But above all, he was an enthusiast of firearms. Over the years, he had built a small but impressive collection of arms, which he cared for meticulously. David was well liked in the community and known for his kindness and willingness to help others. A year before the fateful day at Wheelmaid, he had extended a helping hand to a man named Kevin Cooper. Kevin, aged 35, was going through a tough time, and David had given him £1,000 to help him get back on his feet. It was a generous act that David thought little of, but one that would have dire consequences. Kevin Cooper was a troubled man. Despite David's kindness, he struggled to get his life back on track. Kevin had a friend, Drew and Kevin, a 22-year-old with a similar history of difficulties. Together, they devised a plan that would ultimately lead to David's death. Both men had an interest in firearms, but their motivations differed greatly from David's. For Kevin and Trewin, guns were not a hobby, but a means to make money quickly and without regard for the law. The Wheelmaid copper mine, a hauntingly beautiful place, was the site of David's ill-fated meeting. Abandoned and slowly reclaimed by nature, its tunnels and shafts stand as a testament to Cornwall's rich mining history. David planned to meet Kevin and Trewin there, believing he was engaging with fellow gun enthusiasts about a potential purchase. Though David was cautious, he was also excited. He had spoken with Kevin, whom he believed was grateful for his past help, and agreed to the meeting at the mine, a location he considered safe for their transaction. However, David had no inkling of the true intentions of the men he was about to meet. The encounter at Wheelmaid took a dark turn almost immediately. David, who had arrived expecting a friendly meeting, found himself trapped by Kevin and Trewin. Driven by greed and desperation, the two men attacked David with brutal force. They struck him with a heavy object, rendering him unconscious. Once David was incapacitated, they dragged him to a nearby body of water within the mine and drowned him. It was a cold, calculated act of murder, carried out by two men who saw David not as a friend or benefactor, but as an opportunity. With David dead, Kevin and Trewin turned their attention to his home. Knowing David lived alone, they believed his house would hold valuable items, including the firearms they desired. Breaking into his home, they quickly located a safe, and to their delight, discovered 30,000 pounds inside. Their haul was substantial, but it could not erase the crime they had committed. The stolen money would soon become a key piece of evidence against them. A few days had passed since David's disappearance with no signs of him. It was a dog walker who eventually discovered David's body. He was found in a water-filled pit at the mine. The scene was tragic and gut-wrenching. David was known for his love of cycling, and the initial assumption was that he had died in an accident. Given his age and the remote location, the police considered the possibility that he had fallen or suffered a health issue while cycling. This misunderstanding allowed Kevin and Trewin a brief respite from the consequences of their actions. However, David's family and friends were not convinced by the accident theory. They knew David was a careful cyclist and found it hard to believe he would have simply fallen and drowned. The investigation into David's death took a significant turn when discrepancies in the initial assessment of the scene were discovered. Further examination of David's body revealed injuries inconsistent with a simple cycling accident, leading the police to suspect foul play. With these new findings, the investigation intensified. Detectives started to piece together David's last known movements, and it wasn't long before they uncovered his planned meeting with Kevin and Trewin at Wheelmaid. The focus quickly shifted to these two men, who had suddenly become prime suspects in a murder investigation. The case against Kevin Cooper and Trewin Kevern grew stronger as detectives uncovered more evidence. They found CCTV footage showing the two men entering and leaving David's home around the time of the robbery. Additionally, forensic evidence linked them both to the crime scene at Wheelmaid and David's house. A search of their homes revealed further damning evidence, including items stolen from David's house and traces of his blood on their clothing. Confronted with this overwhelming evidence, the false appearance maintained by Kevin and Trewin quickly crumbled. The trial of Kevin Cooper and Trewin Kevern began in 2016, 2 years after the murder. The courtroom was packed with David's family, friends, and members of the community who had come to see justice served for the man they had lost. The prosecution laid out a compelling case, detailing the events leading up to David's murder and the subsequent robbery. They highlighted David's generosity towards Kevin, painting a picture of a kind-hearted man betrayed by those he tried to help. Their defense attempted to portray the crime as a robbery gone wrong, arguing that the murder was not premeditated. However, the evidence against them was overwhelming, and their claims did little to sway the jury. After a lengthy trial, the jury returned a verdict: guilty. Kevin Cooper was sentenced to a minimum of 28 years in prison for his role in the murder, while Trewin Kevern received a 20-year sentence. Both Kevin and Trewin were charged with murder and robbery. The sentences were met with a sense of relief from David's loved ones, who hoped that justice had been served. The judge, in delivering the sentences, remarked on the cruelty of the crime and the betrayal of trust that defined the murder. David Alderson had been a good man, a generous man, and his life was ended by those he tried to help. The murder of David Alderson at Wheelmaid is a stark reminder of the darkness that can exist in human hearts. It is a story of betrayal and greed, where trust was repaid with violence. For the community in Cornwall, it was a tragedy that underscored the importance of vigilance and the need to protect the vulnerable among them. In the end, justice was served, but the pain of loss lingered on. Lastly, in the heart of the Catskills, New York, where the peaceful landscape stretches for miles, a family tragedy unfolded that would shock a nation. Let's see what happens here. Mary Gilbert was a woman driven by love and fierce determination, a devoted mother of 4 daughters, each of whom meant the world to her. But Mary's life was marked by hardship and pain. The most devastating blow came in 2010, when her daughter, Shannon Gilbert, mysteriously vanished on Long Island. Shannon, a bright and spirited young woman, disappeared without a trace. Although overwhelmed with grief, Mary refused to give up. She relentlessly campaigned, demanding answers from the authorities and tirelessly searching for her missing daughter. Meanwhile, Mary's other daughter, Sarah, was fighting a different battle. At 27 years old, Sarah struggled with severe mental health issues. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, she was tormented by voices and extreme mood swings. Despite these challenges, Mary remained a pillar of support, doing everything she could to provide love and stability for Sarah. Tragically, fate had a different plan. In July 2016, Mary visited Sarah at her apartment in the small town of Ellenville in the Catskills. It was supposed to be a visit like any other. However, Sarah's mental state had taken a dangerous turn. The voices in her head had grown louder and more insistent, driving her towards a breaking point. What was intended as a routine visit would soon become a nightmare no one could have foreseen. During the visit, an argument erupted between Mary and Sarah. The details of what triggered the fight are unclear, but what followed was a horrific act of violence. In a fit of rage, Sarah attacked her mother with a knife, stabbing her over 200 times. The attack was frenzied and brutal, driven by the delusions that haunted Sarah's mind. As if the stabbing wasn't enough, Sarah then grabbed a fire extinguisher and struck her mother, further ensuring Mary's death. The act was a shocking betrayal of Mary's love and support for her daughter. The murder of Mary Gilbert was a heart-wrenching tragedy that rocked the community. It was Sarah herself who called 911, reporting the incident to the police. When officers arrived, they found Mary's lifeless body in the apartment, a scene of unimaginable horror. Sarah was arrested at the scene. During questioning, she claimed that she had been hearing voices commanding her to kill her mother. The voices were a symptom of her severe mental illness, but they could not excuse the violent act she had committed. The trial of Sarah Gilbert began in 2017, drawing widespread media attention. The court proceedings focused on Sarah's mental health, as her defense argued that she was not in control of her actions due to her schizophrenia. They highlighted her history of mental illness and the treatment she had received over the years. However, the prosecution painted a different picture, arguing that Sarah was aware of what she was doing when she killed her mother. They emphasized the premeditated nature of the attack and the brutality with which it was carried out. The jury was tasked with deciding whether Sarah was guilty of murder or if her mental illness diminished her responsibility. After much deliberation, Sarah Gilbert was found guilty of second-degree murder. The jury acknowledged her mental illness but determined that she was still responsible for her actions. She was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, a decision that brought some measure of justice to Mary's surviving family members. Her life and work as an activist left a lasting legacy, inspiring others to continue fighting for justice and change. Her tragic death, however, also sparked discussions about the need for better mental health support and services, emphasizing the importance of providing help for those in crisis and their families. The murder of Mary Gilbert was a tragedy that extended beyond her immediate family. Despite the circumstances of her death, Mary's life serves as a reminder of the power of one person's determination to make a difference. Though marked by loss and heartbreak, her story is also one of hope and courage, a testament to the enduring strength of a mother's love. Mary's relentless pursuit of justice for Shannon and the other victims believed to have been killed under similar circumstances was sustained with the help of other activists. Her story was later depicted in the Netflix film Lost Girls. The three cases share several connections and similarities that highlight the dark complexities of human relationships and their tragic outcomes. Each involves a breakdown of trust and personal relationships, influenced by mental health issues and various motivations. Is it really that difficult to trust? Do personal relationships always have a bad ending? Do let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.